What's up, everybody? My name is Bryce, aka DubsNotSubs, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a anime movie review on the Wonderland, or in Japanese as the Birthday Wonderland. But without further ado, let's get right into this video. So, if you want to actually see this movie, you can actually rent this from 11 Arts website, and it's actually pretty cool how they're doing this because obviously, as you know, most of the movie theaters are closed right now, or all of them are, I believe. I think some places are opening up, but as of right now, like, they're all closed, and so you can't go in and watch it. So what they did was they allowed for a virtual screening, and you can actually go and watch that film on their website. There's like a bunch of different theaters you can choose from. Just choose the closest one is what they say. Obviously, you can choose whichever one you want, but you want to choose the one that's closest to you, so you're supporting a theater that's closer to you, I guess. But without further ado, the story is done by Keiichi Hara. I have it written down here just in case I don't forget anything. It's directed by Keiichi Hara and it's based on Strange Journey from the Basement, a novel. I believe it's a kid's book. Yeah, it's a children's book from 1968, I believe, and it's based on that. So basically, how this works, or how the story goes, is there's a kid named Akane who one day goes to this store to pick up a birthday present that her mom tells her to get, and from some strange thing on, like, a rug lifts up in the basement, and this dude comes out called Hippocrates and says that Akane is actually the green goddess of wind or something like that. It's a bit weird, the name of it, but she whisks her away, and then the shop owner, who also knows Akane from her childhood, it doesn't really get explained too much. You just know they know each other and they act like they do, and I believe her name is Chi. She goes with them, so it's basically Akane's journey in this new land to save it from this kind of apocalyptic scenario that's going on. And I will start with the good of this, and we'll work our way to the bad, because I got a lot to say on the bad, actually. And so, how the story goes, and I guess I'll explain it. So basically, it's very, very Alice in Wonderland, Wizard of Oz, kind of like that old fantasy-inspired place, like the magical world. Because there's one scene right at the beginning where it looks exactly like the scene in Wizard of Oz where they're going to the Emerald City, I believe it's what it's called, and it just looks very, because you had the grass and then like the city in the background exactly like how the Emerald City was placed in the Wizard of Oz. You could also very much tell the Wonderland aspect of it with like some of the cat influence and kind of like the psychedelic feel of the series, but it definitely takes a more kind of whimsical feel rather than the acid trip that Alice in Wonderland is. But let's start with the good, and that is that the character designs, the animation, and the sound. That's what I'm going to say is the best of this series. We'll get on to the actual story and the character development in a little bit, but the character design are actually done by someone named Ilya. I don't want to say it wrong. It's a Russian character. It's a Russian artist, and that's initially why I wanted to read this, because I was like, a Russian artist, because if you actually are into Japanese art or like Japanese art books and stuff, and you go on Amazon, you'll actually see, you'll see that she actually has a bunch of books out that for like art books, and it's actually really cool. And I can't actually find where I wrote her name down. Give me a second. Okay, so it's Ilya Kushinov. I knew I should have wrote it down on, I don't know. It was hidden in there and I couldn't see it, but it's done by Ilya Kushinov, and like I said, she has a lot of art books on Amazon. She's apparently pretty popular in like doing artistic stuff like that, I believe. And so she's very good at character designs. I think one of the best parts about this series is the actual character design. It is very well done, and is done at all the characters look very unique. You can tell how their characteristics line up with their character. I really do like the character design. The animation is it's done very well done. It's done by Studio NG, I believe, and that is the studio who did Recovery of an MMO Junkie and Napping Princess, and I haven't actually seen either one of those, but I do know that Recovery of an MMO Junkie, the writer is a Holocaust denier, so I guess. So anyway, but yes, the actual animation is done very, very well. I think all the drawings and the characters look they're very unique, and it's very vibrant. It works with the world. It's very colorful. Everything looks really, really cool. I very much was into the art style, and that's another reason why I was initially pulled in, because I thought the animation and stuff was really good. The music matched very well up with the scenes. It was very well paced it was very well written when the music was supposed to come in. The music that lined up with each scene, it matched up very, very well. Sound effects in itself sounded very real, and like you were really in that environment, and everything else was very smooth and very well done. But now we have to get on to the fun part for me, and that is the actual terrible parts of this movie, and that is the character development, the characters themselves, not the design aspect, but how they act, and then the story. And man, it just fell so flat, because like the art characters and all this like design and visually it looks absolutely amazing, but when you try to dig into the story and all this, it's just so bad. It was very like the pacing felt very rushed and very slow in certain places. The characters were very underdeveloped. Everyone stayed very one-dimensional. Even the girl that was supposed to change, we don't really even see her change. Like there's one scene where she stares up at the stars, and that's like, I guess maybe like her like visual thing was like, oh, she's starting to change or whatever, but it's just like you never really see it, and it's very weird because she acts the same throughout the entire movie. And then you get to the ending, and then she's like, oh no, and I want to do whatever. And then the whole purpose of the Goddess of Wind is supposed to save this, like the city, not the city, the entire world. But like, what purpose did she really serve in this world? And if you watch the movie there, I don't want to spoil it, but she does nothing. She does absolutely nothing. It doesn't make any sense. Like, I thought she was supposed to have some magical power or some involvement in the actual ending, and yes, technically she does, but you don't need her in this story. If the villain who gets revealed who he was later on didn't do what he did, she's useless. She does nothing. She has no powers. She has no influence in this world. It doesn't make any sense at all why she even needed to be there. Like, did this happen before? Is there a cycle of the villain doing this thing? Because I don't want to spoil what it is, but man, it's just like, why? Because the villain didn't need to do what he did. I'm gonna do a spoiler review after like halfway through this, like when I'm done with it. So if you want to actually know what I'm talking about, I'll tell you. But without spoiling it, it's pointless and it makes no sense. The entire plot is forced with the regard that she needs to actually be involved. It makes no sense why she even needs to be involved. I'm so confused why she even need to be in the entire world. The characters were very one-dimensional. Hippocrates doesn't change. Chi doesn't change. Akane changes in like a switch of like 2 seconds. Like she's the same throughout the entire thing, but then because of plot device, she decides to switch. The actual ending of this entire series is like, why did this happen? Because it's just so stupid. Because what they did to try to save the world is they do something, it doesn't work, so now a kind of the badder side of the thing is supposed to happen. So it ends up happening, but because of BS and this magical wizard that shows up 5 minutes before the movie ends, reverses everything, and you go, what? Why? And I'm just like, I just left the movie so confused of what was the purpose of any of that. And it's just like it just left me so confused and so not good, and it let me down so much because I was expecting so much more for that. If she wasn't there and Hippocrates wasn't there, like if it's just Akane, I would have dropped this. That character is so annoying. She's just not a character that I was enjoying throughout the story. She was very annoying, really just off-putting. She was the store owner, and she had this kind of childish, whimsical thing to her where she's immature for her age, but she made it fun for the actual watcher, not reader, for the watcher. And Hippocrates, their interaction, Chi and Hippocrates interactions were kind of fun at the times, but again, never changed. She talks about finding love in this, like, halfway through, and you're like, okay, maybe there's gonna be, like, love, and then they'll find somebody, even if it's not, you think maybe it's like Hippocrates and her, because they have, like, their thing going throughout the entire thing, and nothing happens. Like, nothing in this movie happens. Nothing, they didn't need to be there. If, like, literally the person, if the villain didn't do what he did, this whole movie would have been pointless, because you didn't even need the Goddess of the Wind. You didn't need to drag her in there. There was no point to doing it, unless it, like, it just left me so confused. But anyway, my review and my out of 10, I'm gonna give this a 4. I think the visuals, the sound, and the animation are top tier, but the fact that the lacking story and the terrible characters really are just like, I can't give it any higher than that. It made it really hard to watch, and it was very annoying to watch these characters go. And it was just not that good of a film. But if you want to see my spoiler review real quick, I'm going to talk about the villain, and then I will end this series, but if you don't, end this video. But if you don't want to watch that, thank you so much for watching. I do always appreciate you guys watching. But anyway, let's get into the spoiler review. Okay, hopefully that's straighter now. I noticed it was like slightly off, like tilted away, and I kind of like tried to readjust myself for it. But anyway, what can you do? I don't think it's gonna look too bad. I like readjusted myself, so we'll see. But as also, if like you're still here, like you can tell I'm standing up now. I like changing up my situation. I was sitting, I was in another room. I like standing more than I do like sitting. I found that I enjoy doing this more sitting, but I don't like all the setup it took to do, like to set up to stand in the other room. And this is just a lot easier to do and a lot easier to stand up. So I mean, obviously the set's not like crazy detail. I mean, I got my nerdy stuff over here. You can see that that's a real Grand Theft Auto banner right there. Like, that is from the actual GameStop. I knew somebody who worked at GameStop, and obviously it's shoved behind all that stuff, because where else are you going to put a giant banner that literally takes up my entire wall back here? It's like the actual official game banner from GameStop. It was actually really cool to have. The person I know who's like super cool, and they were awesome. But anyway, let's get into the actual spoiler review of this. So again, it's a spoiler, so you know, spoiler alert. So what I was going to say about the villain is that actually at the end of the movie, you end up finding out that the villain is the prince, who is in the story. They're losing water. Like, the world's leaving water because the natural flow is interrupted, which not explained, or it's not really developed at all. Again, another reason why that just doesn't make any sense. The world makes no sense. But the water's going away, and they're losing color in their world, and the prince is supposed to do some ceremony where he drops some magical water in there and everything gets fixed, because why not? And so what happens is you find out the villain is actually the prince, who got changed into a different form, and the villain is very plain. That's the only character design that I don't like throughout this story. Even like the sidekick that is with the prince, with the villain, was a lot better designed than him, in my opinion. He wasn't anything special. He's like a very plain looking character, but I liked the way he was designed. To his like mischievous aspect of his character worked well for the character design. But this like whole like creepy, like, he was like a rip-off of a plague doctor. It was really, really stupid. I don't like the design. I thought it was really stupid. And the whole plot was that he didn't want to do it, so he decided to build a literal tank and blow a hole in this well. He was supposed to drop water in, because that's how you stop it. When clearly at the end of the movie, it also tells you that the prince can deny it. The prince doesn't have to do it. It's his choice. They talk about it at the end, like this magical wizard who shows up out of nowhere, like, who's really powerful, and I'll get to that in a second. Just as like, yeah, he doesn't have to do it. It's the prince's choice. But he's like, the prince decides instead to go all psycho mode and, you know, boom, blow up the thing, instead of, like, you know, saying no. I don't know. It's stupid. But so what happens is Akane at the end ends up talking and find out that he's the prince, and he's like, oh, do it now. And he's like, okay. Like, literally, it takes a span of like maybe 3 minutes. He's like, I don't want to do it. My dad did it, but I don't want to do it. He's like, why don't you do it? Because I'll be there with you. Okay, girl who I meant 3 seconds ago. And that's the whole thing. And it's just like, that's her development. That's her switching up, and like, you don't even see it. It's so frustrating. It's just like, then they go and do it, and then, like I said, it failed. He drops his magical water, and I don't know, it wasn't fertile enough. Like, his magical semen didn't do anything, so he ends up having to actually jump in, and that's the only other way to do is die. So, but Akane doesn't want him to do that because, I don't know, she's somehow connected to him in the 5 minutes they've met, and she ends up jumping in with him, and the magical dude at the bottom, the wizard that you don't know, goes, oh, she dropped in with you, so you're good now, mate. You're not gonna die. Let me throw you up there and fix it. So then you're like, why does the prince have to be there in the first place? He didn't even need to be there. The wizard could have done it, and there would have been no point to this entire show! Ah! Literally, this movie infuriates me on so many levels of a story design. Nothing makes sense. The story becomes absolutely pointless when you learn the things at the end. Like, and even the final scene, like, after he like comes up and the water shoots up and like water birds fly out, because fuck it, at this point nothing makes sense anyway. And he just starts cutting up and magical music playing, and you're just sitting there like, what the fuck? And then they leave. Then they leave in the span of, like, I think this is like 5 minutes. He like does it, and not even 5 minutes later, they're already gone, and the movie's over. And you're like, why did I watch this? And yeah, that's the end of that movie. That's what I think about it. I don't like it at all. Anyway, guys, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, I'll see you in another video.